Beneath the cold, dark waters of the Baltic Sea, something impossible is waiting. A shape 60 meters wide, hidden just 90 meters below the surface. For more than a decade, it has defied explanation. Some call it a rock. Others whisper it is a ship, one not built by human hands. It disturbs electronics. It leaves a scar across the seafloor more than a kilometer long. And wherever it lies, silence follows, both from the deep and from those who watch above. Is it a natural formation carved by ancient ice? A monument from a forgotten civilization? Or the remains of a craft that fell from the stars long ago? Tonight, we dive into one of the greatest ocean mysteries of our time. This is the story of the Baltic Sea Anomaly. It was supposed to be routine. The Ocean X team, led by Dennis Esborg, had spent nearly 2 weeks scanning the Baltic Sea floor. Their mission was simple: locate an old wreck rumored to contain bottles of champagne and cognac, sealed treasures of another century. The nights blurred into each other. The sea outside was dark, endless, and heavy. In the control room, only the glow of the sonar screen lit their tired faces. Then, without warning, something unusual appeared. The sonar drew the outline of a perfect circle, 60 meters across, larger than a passenger jet. Its shadow sat still, almost defiant, at a depth of 90 meters, and behind it stretched a line across the seabed over a kilometer long, as if something had plowed through the ocean floor before coming to rest. The room fell silent. Every man stared at the image. At first glance, it did not look like a shipwreck. It did not look like anything they had ever seen. The object had mass, symmetry, presence. One of the crew whispered what the others were thinking but dared not say aloud. "It looks like a UFO." Dennis felt a shiver crawl down his spine. He knew better than to laugh it off, yet he also knew the danger of wild speculation. He ordered the team to stay quiet, to keep it to themselves for now. The ocean had secrets, but until they had more data, they could not risk being dismissed as dreamers. When they shared the image later with colleagues around the world, the reaction was the same: disbelief, curiosity, unease. No one could explain it. No one had seen anything like it. Days turned into weeks as the team studied the data. What they found only deepened the mystery. The object was not merely round. On the sonar, sharp lines cut across its surface. Angles, perfect 90-degree corners, suggested design, not nature. The formation looked engineered, as though walls and edges had once belonged to something constructed. Scientists, when asked, dismissed it as a product of glaciers. They claimed the last ice age had carved strange shapes into the seabed. But Dennis and his crew had seen countless geological formations before. None of them looked like this. And then there was the silence. When word of the discovery leaked, newspapers in Stockholm published the story. Within hours, it spread across the world. People whispered of an ancient artifact, a secret Soviet weapon, or something from beyond the stars. At the same time, something else began to happen. Ships, Swedish Navy vessels, NATO patrols started appearing near the site. They lingered, circled, then disappeared. It was as if the anomaly had suddenly become important. Too important to leave to a group of civilian explorers. Why such interest if it was only a rock? Why watch so closely unless there was more beneath the waves than anyone dared admit? The Baltic Sea Anomaly was no longer just an odd sonar image. It had become a global mystery, heavy with silence, suspicion, and the possibility of something extraordinary. When Dennis and his team returned to the site, they were determined to see the anomaly with their own eyes. Sonar images were not enough. They brought divers, underwater vehicles, and cameras. They wanted proof. But from the moment they arrived above the object, things began to go wrong. The sea itself seemed hostile. Their navigation systems, normally reliable, suddenly failed. GPS signals flickered and died. The radar, which should have guided them safely, showed only static. Remote-operated vehicles descended into the dark water, only to lose power or freeze without reason. It was as if the object below was alive, rejecting their presence. When divers entered the water, the Baltic greeted them with silence. 90 meters down, the world was black and dead. No fish, no sound, Visibility stretched barely half a meter. Their lights pushed against the darkness but could not pierce it. The divers swam closer, feeling more than seeing the massive form beneath them. The surface was cold to the touch, harder than stone, yet smoother in places, almost metallic. One diver tried to break off a piece for testing, but his tools were useless. The anomaly would not yield. Yet around it something strange had happened. Stones lying on the object bore signs of extreme heat, as though they had been burned in fire hotter than any natural process in the Baltic. But there are no volcanoes here, no tectonic activity, no known source of such heat. The divers also noticed the structure seemed to rise from the seabed, almost separated from it, as if it had not formed there but arrived there. Then, more unsettling still, came the failures. Lights dimming, compasses spinning, cameras shutting down without warning. Each time the problems vanished as soon as the team moved away from the object. The crew whispered about it on deck, their voices low, as though the sea itself might overhear. Was this only malfunction, or was the anomaly sending out something unseen, an energy, a force that pushed back against intruders? The longer they stayed, the heavier the feeling became, a pressure in the air, a sense of being watched from below. When the team surfaced, shaken and exhausted, Dennis knew one thing for certain. Whatever lay beneath the Baltic Sea, it was not only strange in shape, it was strange in spirit. The object was more than a curiosity. It was a presence. Back on land, the anomaly became the center of endless debate. Scientists, journalists, and believers each offered their version of the truth. Yet none of the theories fully explained what Dennis and his team had seen. The most common explanation was simple: a natural rock formation shaped by glaciers during the last ice age. After all, the Baltic was once a frozen world, and ice had carved valleys and mountains. Why not this strange shape too? But that answer never satisfied the explorers. They had seen the sharp angles, the 90-degree corners, the track stretching across the seabed. Ice may sculpt, but it does not leave behind geometry. Another theory reached further back into time. Perhaps the structure was the remains of an ancient civilization. Long before recorded history, some unknown people may have built a monument, something like Stonehenge or the pyramids, that later sank beneath the sea. If true, it meant that human history was far older and far stranger than textbooks claimed. But the most whispered theory was also the most dangerous: that the Baltic Sea anomaly was a craft, not built by humans but by visitors from beyond the stars. A ship that crashed thousands of years ago, leaving its scar on the seafloor, hidden under layers of silt and darkness. And if it was a craft, then what force still lived inside it, disrupting electronics and navigation? What presence made divers feel the weight of unseen eyes in the black water? Dennis had no clear answers, only questions. But there was one detail that made him wonder. Every time his team returned, naval ships lingered nearby, silent, watchful. Why would NATO shadow them if the anomaly was nothing but stone? In the world above, theories clashed. In the world below, the object remained silent, a riddle carved into the ocean floor, waiting for the day someone dared to pierce its heart. Years passed, but the mystery never faded. For Dennis, the anomaly was more than a discovery. It was an unfinished story. Each failed attempt to take samples, each malfunction of their equipment only deepened his determination. He knew they had to return. The new expedition was planned with greater ambition. This time they would not come only as treasure hunters, but as seekers of truth. Scientists, geologists, and engineers were invited to join. The goal was clear: to drill into the anomaly itself, to see if its shell concealed something hidden inside. Special tools were prepared. Ground-penetrating radar, like the kind used to scan the pyramids of Egypt, would probe beneath the surface. Core drills would attempt to pierce the hard material, collecting samples untouched for millennia. Advanced sonar would map its interior, searching for hollows, chambers, or machinery. But even before the expedition began, whispers followed them. Investors were cautious. The word UFO still carried a curse. Some feared ridicule, others feared the attention of governments. And still the Navy kept appearing near the site, silent shadows on the horizon, as if guarding a secret they did not want revealed. Dennis felt the weight of time pressing on him. He was no longer young, but his passion burned. He wanted to stand on that deck, to lead the descent, to be the one who touched the unknown. Would they find only stone? Or would their drills bite into something impossible? Metal forged by hands not human, chambers filled with echoes of a past not written in any history. The sea waited, silent, cold, but never empty. The Baltic Sea anomaly had guarded its mystery for thousands of years. And now, at last, humanity was preparing to ask the question the ocean had held in darkness. What lies beneath? Even after years of speculation, the anomaly remained silent. It refused to give up its secrets. Scientists studied sonar scans, journalists wrote headlines, and explorers shared fragments of footage, but the truth stayed locked beneath the Baltic Sea. Some claimed to see patterns on the surface, ridges like steps, lines too straight to be natural. Others believed the object was hollow, that somewhere inside it might rest ancient technology waiting. But without drilling, no one could know. Theories multiplied. To the cautious, it was only geology, an unusual stone, nothing more. To the dreamers, it was a ship. A visitor from another world, frozen in time, its engines long dead, but its presence still powerful. And yet, there were details that refused to be ignored. The burned stones, the track carved into the seafloor as if the object had skidded across it. The way electronics died whenever the team came too close. The sea seemed to protect its secret. It hid the anomaly in darkness and silence, revealing only enough to tease, never enough to explain. Even Dennis admitted he did not know what they had found. But he knew one thing: it mattered, because mysteries like this remind us of how little we truly understand. What rests beneath the Baltic? A monument? A natural wonder? Or the shadow of another intelligence, long gone yet not forgotten? Until the day the drills bite deep and the silence breaks, the Baltic Sea anomaly will remain what it has always been: a question. And sometimes questions are more powerful than answers. The anomaly lay silent below, but above the waves, eyes were watching. Every time Dennis and his crew returned to the site, they were not alone. On the horizon, gray silhouettes of naval ships appeared, sometimes Swedish, sometimes NATO. They circled without speaking, their presence heavy, their intent unspoken. The crew whispered about it late at night, on the deck, as the Baltic wind cut through the dark. If the anomaly was nothing more than a stone, why would the military care? Why did warships linger near their humble expedition vessel? It was not just once. It happened again and again. Whenever the Ocean X team came close to the object, the Watchers came too. Silent guardians or silent threats. Some of the divers swore they felt it, even underwater, a pressure in the current, as though unseen forces observed their every move. The sea was empty of life, but never empty of presence. Rumors spread. Perhaps the object had already been known to governments long before 2011. Perhaps it was marked, cataloged, and classified. Perhaps Dennis and his team had only stumbled upon something others had tried to keep buried. On land, too, the silence was telling. Investors turned away, not because the project lacked interest, but because the word UFO carried danger. A label that closed doors, ended conversations, and drew unwanted attention. For Dennis, the message was clear. Someone somewhere did not want the anomaly understood, and so the mystery deepened. Not only was there an object resting beneath the Baltic Sea, but there were shadows above, ships and powers that hovered like predators, ready to strike if the truth came too close. The anomaly was not only an enigma of nature. It was now part of a greater puzzle, a secret guarded not just by the sea, but by men. Time passed, but the Baltic Sea anomaly remained where it had always been, silent, hidden, defiant. Explorers came and went, scientists argued, governments looked away, and yet the mystery endured. For Dennis and his crew, the discovery was more than just a moment in 2011. It became a mark on their lives, a shadow they could never escape. Whenever they spoke of it, people leaned closer, their eyes wide, hungry for secrets. Whenever they tried to prove it, doors closed and silence followed. The object itself seemed almost eternal. Beneath 90 meters of dark water, it rested in a place beyond time. Burned stones, impossible geometry, and an aura that disturbed every machine that touched it. These were the fragments of its story. But the full tale, the truth of what it is and where it came from, has yet to be told. Some say it is a monument from a forgotten age. Others believe it is the grave of a ship not of this earth. Perhaps both are true, perhaps neither. And still the Baltic keeps its secret. The sea has buried kingdoms, ships, and legends, but this object endures like a sentinel from another world. One day the drills may pierce its shell. One day the mystery may unravel, and we will know whether it is stone, metal, or something beyond imagination. But until that day, the anomaly remains a riddle, a reminder that our world is older, stranger, and far less understood than we dare to admit. Its legacy is not only what lies beneath the waves. Its legacy is the question it plants in every mind. What else is waiting, hidden in the dark, just beyond our reach? And so the Baltic Sea anomaly remains, silent, untouched, and unexplained. Whether it is stone, a monument, or the shadow of a ship from beyond our world, the truth still hides beneath the waves. Perhaps one day the sea will give up its secret. Until then, it stands as a reminder. Our planet holds mysteries far older and stranger than we imagine. What do you think lies beneath the Baltic Sea? A natural wonder or proof that we are not alone? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to X-Site, and join us again as we uncover the secrets that still wait in the dark.